So have you ever wondered what happens with your data whenever you're actually transmitting any kind of document or sending files across the internet? Well, today we're going to take a look at one element that we all wonder what in the world is it? And that is the cloud. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am here today with Ted Hassel from DC BLOX, and they are well, let me just stop. I don't even want to say what they are because I want Ted to introduce what DC BLOX is, who they are, and what they do.
Right. Thank you, Jamal. I appreciate the time together. You know, everybody talks about the cloud, right? And where is the cloud? Well, the cloud is in a data center. And we're a data center provider. We build and operate data centers throughout the Southeast. And we also are a fiber optic company. We're building a fiber network from our cable landing station in Myrtle Beach, currently from Myrtle Beach through Moncks Corner, South Carolina, through Augusta, Georgia, and up through Atlanta. So we not only build and operate data centers throughout the Southeast, but we also are a fiber optic company, laying the next generation of the cloud internet, if you will, fiber network. Very exciting.
And you kind of brought up a point because a lot of people have always wondered what is the cloud, right? Yeah, and that kind of brings me to a reason why I wanted to come and visit you guys again today. And the cloud to a lot of people means a lot of things, right? What do you store in the cloud? And of course, it's data. And when you start talking about data, for a lot of people, they don't grasp what everything encompasses when you say data, right? So some of the things and reason why we come to a data center is because of the security around it. So you have the protection and security of the data center when it comes to physical security, when getting people in. I mean, just me walking in, I went through 2 levels of security, just walking through the gate, through the door, getting myself checked with my ID. These are all things that a lot of people don't realize that encompasses securing that data. What other security levels do you guys have in place when it comes to the data center itself and maybe beyond that?
Right. So this is a built for purpose Tier 3 SOC 2 Type 2 data center. And so a lot of the other data centers in the past in these secondary type markets were maybe in a strip mall or something like that, had contiguous buildings. This is not that. This is a built for purpose standalone data center. We own our real estate as well. And so we control the environment from soup to nuts. So fire suppression, physical security, as you were saying, to come into our data center. We control every aspect of what can happen within our facility, and that's what people want to pay for. It's a compliance issue. So a lot of compliance documentation that customers have to meet for their critical IT infrastructure must be in a secure data center. And that's what we offer our clients. If you have critical IT infrastructure that you need to make sure is up and going all the time, you're going to bring it to a DC BLOX environment to meet that criteria. It's what they call a N+1 environment. So everything that we have, power, cooling, network connectivity, etc., has a redundant path to it. So if one fails, there's always an opportunity to keep that business up and going. You're never without the opportunity to be in business. And that's why people come to a data center. They can't afford to be out of business with a critical IT infrastructure.
Right, so I guess one of the questions you kind of even brought up, like the customers, like what kind of customers do you guys normally see? Don't have to name names, of course, but who's the data center like DC BLOX, who's it designed for?
Right, I call them swim lanes, if you will. Mm-hmm. We have four or five distinctive swim lanes, large enterprise customers. In Greenville, for example, the automotive business is very important to us, and they cannot go down, whether they're in electric vehicles or whatnot. They can't go down. They may put their infrastructure into our facility for sure. So a large enterprise environment would like that. Healthcare. You think about HIPAA and some of the requirements that are all the data that they, imaging, etc. That's another swim lane that we have that we take care of a lot of customers in the healthcare environment. Financial institutions, banks, etc. would require, we've got to have a secure facility to have our infrastructure in. So banking, government and universities, two other sectors that require the compliance associated with their data to be in a secure environment. Those are other two swim lanes that we address. But there's just clients that if your infrastructure was to go down, you'd be out of business. So any client, any customer, any business that's looking to make sure that they do not go down is a candidate for a data center. So you have those larger swim lanes that are sort of the obvious, but any client that doesn't want to have their infrastructure go down would consider DC BLOX as a great solution for them to make sure that they're always up. Because they don't want to build this environment, right? This is the infrastructure just to build this environment to make sure you have an N+1 environment and never go down. They don't want to take that on. They want to do their business. They're going to recruit DC BLOX and say, hey, let's put our stuff in DC BLOX. We'll do business with whatever we're doing and let DC BLOX worry about it. Right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people will understand that more now as far as, because I know a lot of companies, when you get into business, you start a business, you're focused on revenue, profits, margin, things like that. But you eventually start realizing there's other parts of the business, like protecting that investment, protecting those customers and clients that you deal with. And a lot of times it's the data that you transact between each other that needs to be protected the most.
We call that co-location. So if you're putting your equipment into our data center, that's called co-location. We talk about connectivity. So moving that information, that data, is a connectivity play. You think about railroad tracks, if you will. If those cars on the railroad tracks are data packets, we move those data packets as well through our connectivity, that we have multiple carriers connected within our network. And we're connected by a 100 gig network between all of our data centers. Data centers are located in Greenville, Birmingham, Atlanta, Chattanooga, and Huntsville. And we've got opportunity to build up in High Point, and we're building a cable landing station in Myrtle Beach. So that connectivity between all those locations, as well as multiple paths for that fiber to come out from those locations, is very important. Cloud ramp is another reason why you want to get to Azure or something like that. You can have the connectivity for that cloud ramp in our data centers. And then a lot of people consider storage as one of those critical IT pieces of their business. We also have a storage part of our business where you can put your data into our data center in a secure environment and retrieve those applications as well. So co-location, connectivity, cloud ramp, and storage is the foundations of DC BLOX.
Awesome, that is awesome. I think the only other question I was thinking about in my head was, if an individual who is starting their own business, if they say, hey, I want to take the 2 to 4 terabytes of information I have for my company and I want to move it to the data center, is there a package for me out there? Or is it something that maybe I should just kind of look at a different way of bringing it over?
Yeah, you may look at some different options. Again, if you're going to move into a data center, It's more of an established, probably not right off the bat as a startup type business, but if you're an established business and you have a high need for data or imaging, then you start considering a data center as an option. So it's sort of not a startup environment, I would think, but if you're in the imaging and you have more than 10 terabytes of information, then you're good to go to start kind of considering a data center.
Yeah, and that's I think some of the people I've spoke to, they operate small businesses all the way up to the enterprise level and beyond, right? So, and that's one question that has always popped up is like, as a small business, as I'm growing, when do I start looking to move my stuff into a data center? We've always talked to them about backup and recovery plans, right? So, like you mentioned, a backup plan might be something they have to have right off the bat.
Perfect, and that's a lot of our conversations revolve around disaster recovery. And so maybe they still have an on-site stack of equipment, right? But they need to have a place to make sure that it's secure. Again, that's another obvious place for them to consider DC BLOX, is to have their disaster recovery or DR strategy within a data center.
Now, you guys entered in a partnership with Data Canopy.
Yes.
And as a member of Intellisys Solution Engineering team, we were very familiar with Data Canopy.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that partnership, how can that continue to grow and just blossom out? Because we see where things are going, and I think it's going to be a huge impact for everyone. So what are your opinions on that?
I think it's been a great relationship so far, and the advantage of having Data Canopy recommend DC BLOX is sort of spans the entire country. As right now, DC BLOX is a southeastern-based company with data centers in the southeast. That probably won't be true years to come, but for right now, we're located in the southeast. Data Canopy has that entire reach from not only the southeast, but the entire country. And so if you're looking for a solution, and a networking solution perhaps, for the entire country, Data Canopy has the reputation and recommendations that help pull DC BLOX in the southeast. Maybe they have another suggestion for the Midwest, something else for the West Coast, but can pull that whole solution together for our clients' needs to make sure that they're hitting on point for security and for connectivity and the redundancy and reliability that they're seeking. So that's been a great partnership to look outside just the southeast, to have Data Canopy really looking over the overall global view of the data center space.
Awesome. Well, Ted, I think you have answered every single question that I had on my mind, and some questions that I know some of my customers I've spoken to in the past, and some of my viewers that are going to be looking at this. So, if we have an opportunity, I would love to, explore a little bit of the data center for what I can see, of course.
Absolutely.
So if you guys will just stay tuned, we are going to do a little bit of transition, and we'll move to a little bit of a tour of a DC BLOX data center.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we start with the K-rated fencing around the perimeter of DC BLOX. That is 35-mile-an-hour protection from any vehicle. Then you go into your badge swipes. You've got a total of 8 different badge swipes from the time you enter a DC BLOX to get to your pod, with multi-factored identification along the way. That's a swipe with a 4 or 5 digit PIN to get to the next level of security. Facility, you got 10 inches thick of concrete. That's built to withstand 150-mile-an-hour sustained winds, burst of 250. So you also have an additional 5 inches of concrete on the top of the facility. So you're actually in a bunker. Your equipment is in basically a bunker that's protected by, again, bulletproof entry. You got 140 cameras around the facility monitoring your every move. You've got lightning protection around the perimeter as well. You've got these bollards for making sure that no truck or a car or ram would enter this facility. So the physical security of DC BLOX is huge. And that's where a lot of these compliance issues start with. Not to mention inside the facility, you've got 24/7 officers that are touring the facility on the hour and would be checking you in on visits. So we're constantly monitoring every single aspect of this facility 24/7, either by video or physical walkabouts in the facility.